Check out the GM Shuffle. You and Femi do an amazing job with that, Michael. Anything big today on the GM Shuffle that people should be aware about? Like a little tease out there for the people?
No, I mean, we just kind of we went through it. I talk him down. My man is, he's a little bit worried about his Cowboys, as you are too, which is always Cowboy fans are worried. I think that just goes with the territory. But, there's always a way to get you back in. It's like you just one little move and you'll be hook, line, and sinker going to the window to bet your Super Bowl tickets again. But I think it's kind of the overall landscape. I think the one thing is, and I wrote about this for VSiN this week, David, is I think you have to be really careful to not overreact. The media is there to overreact. The media is there to sell a story, the Russell Wilson narrative, to sell a story about how this move makes a difference. But really, there's moves that are yet to be determined. Like I mentioned earlier, Baltimore signing 2 guys in August and September that made a difference to their team. It's a long way to go. Belichick used to talk about being at base camp when you start the season. You're at base camp and you're climbing Everest, and it's a long climb. And you're going to have to be really good every single day along the way. And how many times have you and I been in talking about off-season where the team that had the best offseason really ended up not having the best team? So I think you got to be really careful, and you got to make sure that all these players you sign actually play to the level you think they can play. Like, for example, is there a worse free agent signing team than the Jets?
Oof.
Has any team done a worse job in free agency than the Jets? Right? But they win free agency every year. But every year, this year Carl Lawson was on the thing. The tight end CJ was on the list to get cut. Lakeland Tomlinson, all these guys that they sign as college free as high paid unrestricted, they're gone.
Yeah,
they lose them, and so like again, it comes down to yes, you signed the player, but does the player play to the level that you anticipate him playing to?
It's a great point. And again, I'm in D.C. for so many decades there. We saw them win a lot of offseason banners in D.C. It never amounted to anything. You spend all that money, sometimes it does not always seem to pan out. So certainly some fan bases very excited. Other fan bases just relax. Long period of time as we go here, day 3 of free agency. To that end, obviously the big news in free agency was Kirk Cousins signing with the ATL. We saw, though, that it's something that's always interesting to me, the legal tampering period versus the illegal tampering period. The NFL is going to investigate what the Falcons did with Kirk and the Eagles with some of their moves. Michael, just as an executive, can you kind of pull the veil behind the curtain there as to what you guys can do legally and what is the NFL looking into when it comes to the ATL in Philadelphia?
Well, they don't want any contact with agents about other players. But here's the problem when you get down there. You can subpoena phone records, right?
Oh.
But if I call you up, David, and you represent one of my free agents, okay, and you and I are negotiating a contract on that player, and I ask you about another player that you represent on another team, that would be tampering at that moment and what it would cost. But how do you prove that? You can't. And so why do the agents need to do the tampering during this? Because if you're Mike Evans, let's take him as an example. If you're Mike Evans' agent, you want to sign back with Tampa, but you also want to know what the market is out there. You want to kind of have a gauge of what's out there in the market. What could I get, right? And I've waited this long. Should I just go to free agency or should I take this deal? You're really Monty Hall, door number 1, door number 2, door number 3. Which one do you want here? And so the agents tamper because they need to know the market value of the player that they're trying to redo the contract. And they're never going to redo a contract. They're never going to, unless they know what they thought they could get. Eric Armstead, for example, the 49ers went to him and tried to get a reduction. His agent said no, because there's something in him that believes, I don't know where or why, but he believes he can make more than what the Niners offered him in the open market. And so that's tampering. But it's hard to prove. It's very challenging to prove. It's impossible to prove because you're dealing with some of the same guys all the time. And then the agents are asking you, are you interested in Kirk Cousins? Yeah, we're interested in Kurt. What's it going to cost? Okay. Now you're in a conversation. If you're Mike McCartney, who represents Kirk Cousins, you know that Atlanta's going to be a serious player. You also know that he may have 2 other players on Atlanta's team, so he's dealing with Rich McKay. He's dealing with Chris Olsen down in Atlanta on different topics under the discussion. Now, there's no paperwork being exchanged. Nobody's making a formal offer, but the offer would be, okay, we would probably guarantee, if we were in the 45 a year range, we'll guarantee 50% of that. Okay, well, let me see if I can work with that. Well, immediately, McCartney goes back to Minnesota. He doesn't declare what he has, but he wants to know what they have. So he goes back to Minnesota, and he says, what are you thinking about for Kirk? Well, here's what we're thinking. Okay. Now, Kurt, you and I, we have to have a talk, because I think I can get $180 million with $90 guaranteed from Atlanta, pretty much, and I'll probably get it front loaded. So do you want me to go down that road, or do you want me to try to make this deal? That's how it goes.
Fascinating. So the NFL is investigating Eagles, Falcons. We'll see.
There's no investigation. They can't. And what they're investigating is what James Franklin said, that there was a conversation, which I'm sure there wasn't. Howie Roseman's way too smart to have any phone contact on his phone with Saquon Barkley's phone. Now, I'm not saying they don't have burners. I'm not saying that, but there's no way. And Cousins is also, Atlanta's being looked into, because Cousins said that he had a contact with the trainer. When did that occur? When did that happen? After he announced he was signing, when the period opened up? I don't know. But this is very difficult. Plus, the NFL encourages it, because why else would you have the combine when free agency's 2 weeks away? All these agents are in one place at one time. It's almost impossible not to tamper.
That's exactly what I'm getting at. So it just feels kind of wink with the NFL. They got to say it, because people are going to hear the soundbite, as you alluded to, and they go, wait a minute, the timing of that. All right, we'll look into that. I wonder if anything comes of it, but you're right. I mean, boy, we're going to let's see. But it's like, look, the owners do this. The owners do the same thing now. So you understand this, right? So the owners don't go to the networks. The owners don't go to the networks and say, what are you bidding for football? The owners have a committee that goes to the advertisers, and they find out what they're willing to pay for advertisement on NFL games. And then they come up with a price. So what the NFL and the owners are not going to do is have the networks tell them, well, we can't make any money off your product, so we're only paying $50 million. Well, no, wait a minute. We know you can make $200 million on Madison Avenue. You follow me? I do.
Like, they're not negotiating blindly, and that's part of negotiation. You can't negotiate blindly. You've got to be prepared to understand where the market is, where it's going, and you as an executive, you've got to understand and say, no, look, I can't do that. And Baltimore, as an example, Baltimore did that, right? Baltimore knew that they needed to redo Ronnie Stanley. They really don't have a backup left tackle. Morgan Moses was a very fringe starter for them, not a good player. They were actually rotating him during their playoff game. Of course, it never got mentioned on the game on the TV, but they got a young player who they drafted in the 4th round in 22 from Minnesota, Falale, who's a big physical man. Play him. They drafted Cleveland to be the right guard in the 3rd round. Linderbaum's a 1st-round pick. They've got a 6th-rounder position to start right now, which is why they let John Simpson go. So they have players behind them to play, so they don't get trapped into, we got to have this guy, and if we don't have this guy, we're going to lose. It's the same thing that happened with Patrick Queen. Mm-hmm. They drafted Trenton Simpson to replace Patrick Queen, but they did it a year ago.
Right. Got to have that forward thinking. We'll see if this goes anywhere with the NFL. But, Michael, I love the explanation how that kind of inner workings, in fact, does work. It's worked a lot in Detroit. It's worked really well so far with the hiring of Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes as the GM. They've been rewarded. Contract extensions now for both gentlemen through the 2027 season. What do you make of that symbiotic relationship in Detroit? And you know this better than most. It feels very important to have the head coach and the GM on the same page, because a lot of times, if it doesn't work, they're both showing the door. And when it does work, they're both going to be there. And now they're going to be there through 2027.
Well, what I think Campbell's done a great job of is basically saying to the Lions, this is the kind of player I want. This is the kind of team I want. He hasn't made any changes with his offensive staff other than when we demoted Anthony Lynn. But that offense is the New Orleans Saints offense. It's exactly what it is. And and it's going to stay that way no matter what happens. And then defensively, Aaron Glenn's been running it. And so they know what kind of players they're looking for. They sign Amik Robertson from the Raiders. They trade for Carlton Davis. They want big corners who can play press, get in your face. So there's an identity there that's something that Detroit hasn't had. And the identity leads to a harmony between the two people. The general manager who can identify the players that fit the scheme. Whereas in Washington, they're trying to have the general manager pick the players. But, you can see Quinn's influence into the team because Quinn is driving some of these signings because they all fit the scheme of the Washington defense. And we just got breaking news, which we kind of thought would happen. Joey Bosa restructured his contract. Ooh. Now, when we say this, when he restructures his contract, he had a huge paragraph 5, right? So once all they did was guarantee his paragraph 5, lowered his cap number, and they got room. He didn't give away money. He didn't give $5 million back, whereas Harrison Smith did.
Fascinating. We'll have more on that as this second hour goes here at the Lombardi Line. But when we come back, let's play a little no way or no doubt. Things that you've seen, and maybe even the Bosa signing there, re-signing. We'll discuss whether or not you think these moves have no way or no doubt going forward. That's next here in the Lombardi Line.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here is your host, Stormy Bonatoni, on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Get an early start on your college hoops tournament betting with VSiN's full court bracket betting coverage this Sunday. We're going to have a full show dedicated to opening lines for every single game. You're going to have full access to the entire show, the betting splits, the picks with VSiN's free access through Sunday. Just register at VSiN.com/champweek. The VSiN College Hoops experts, Jonathan Von Tobel, Tim Murray, they're going to analyze every single game, discuss with the bookmakers making the lines to find the very best early value. Do not wait for the lines to move. Start your bracket and tournament betting with VSiN's Betting the Bracket show this Sunday starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. And while you're at it, with so many bottles to choose from, it's easy to find your favorite at all the lowest prices for over 30 years. Find what you love what you find at Total Wine and more. Please drink responsibly, and you must be 21 years of age or older.
Do you disagree with these takes?
No way.
No way.
Or do you approve?
Oh, no doubts. No doubt. No doubt in my mind.
No diggity, no doubt.
It's time to ask Michael Lombardi, no way or no doubt.
It is no way or no doubt. And, Michael, before we get to some of the other ones, you did have some breaking news. I'll just put it in the form of a no way, no doubt question for you. Joey Bosa re-signing with the Chargers. Was there no way or no doubt that this was going to happen?
There was no doubt it was going to happen. I mean, look, Bosa is a frustrating player because he's extremely talented, but he's hurt all the time, which makes him frustrating, right? He can't seem to stay on the field. But his value as a pass rusher, his ability to still rush is something that, every team wants. And to think that he was just going to be out there for nothing, there was no way. And he had so much paragraph 5 money that he was going to be able to convert it and lower his cap numbers. So there was no doubt that this was going to happen. I said it yesterday. They had so many options to get below the cap. People look at their cap and say, oh, what are they doing? Well, Ed McGuire's a pretty good cap guy. He knows what he's doing, and he did it.
So no doubt it is, in fact, done. Joey Bosa going back to the Chargers along with Khalil Mack after letting go of Mike Williams yesterday. So very busy free agency period here for the Chargers. No way or no doubt that the Atlanta Falcons, now with KC8 going to the ATL, will win a playoff game in Kirk Cousins' first year as a starter. Remember, they're the odds-on favorite to win the NFC South now, minus $1.25. No way or no doubt that they at least win one game in the postseason.
Well, it would be only the second of his career. I say no way. I'll go no way there. I mean, look, let's be clear here now. Let's be clear. I know everybody's running to the window, and I'm not saying they won't. I'm just saying don't run to the window so fast, right? Because let's just take a look. The last game that they played in Chicago, cold, rainy, snowy, the Bears, who can't scored 37 on their defense. The next week they go into New Orleans and they give up 48, right? So, like, and they lose to Carolina in Carolina 9-7. So, like, I really don't want to. And then they lost to Tampa the week before when they had the lead. They were up 25-23, I think, at the time, or 22. And Baker takes them right down the field and scores, and they win the game 29-25. So, you know, I mean, like, tell me that they're a great defensive team. Everybody says they're one player away. Whenever you're one player away, you're really not.
Falcons, by the way, have not won a playoff game since the 2017-18 wildcard round against the Rams. Cousins, 12 years a starter, or 12 years in the league at least, one career playoff win. No way or no doubt, this is for the Femmies, the me's of the world out there. No way or no doubt that the Cowboys' inactivity in free agency will come back to bite Jera and America's team in the regular season.
Well, I think the regular season is going to bite them, but I don't think it's because of free agency. I think it's because they're not as talented as a team as everybody thinks they are. And I think that their cap is going to create some problems. So for me, I see this as a, you know, I'm not optimistic about their season next year. And also, too, because we know the NFC East champ never repeats.
Right.
I mean, we just know that, right?
Hadn't happened in 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm just going to say it, but it's not because they're not active in free agency. It's because I think their team is top-heavy with the great players that they have, but they don't have enough depth. They're going to have a great, great draft this year.
So, Femi, if you're listening, that means Michael's saying no way that the inactivity is going to be what bites Dallas. It's going to be they're just not that good. Cowboys are plus $1.30, right, by the way, to win the division, tied with the Eagles at plus $1.30, the Giants and the Commanders long shots at $7.50 and 10-1 respectively. No way or no doubt. Oh boy, Bears fans, everybody buckle up for this one. Justin Fields will be traded before week 1 of the 2024 season, before the start of the 2024 NFL draft.
No doubt. I mean, look, they can't bluff it anymore, right? I mean, they're trying to pretend that they don't have. They're trying to pretend that they haven't tried to trade him. Everybody knows he's available. Well, first of all, why haven't you? If you don't trade him when there's jobs open, when are you going to try to trade him? If you expect, think about how dumb that statement was Poles made. If you expect to get a first-round pick or a deal similar to what Alex Smith got, 2 third-round picks. Now, Alex Smith won 38 games and your boy Fields has won 10. But let's just say if you expect to get a deal, a starting quarterback deal, wouldn't you want to make the trades when the starting quarterback jobs were open? Who's going to turn around and give him a first-round pick now for a backup quarterback?
No doubt.
But think about how dumb that statement is, and no one called him out on it. No one called him out on it. Like, why, you're negligent at your job if you haven't, because all the jobs are gone. All the jobs are gone.
The game of musical chairs for quarterbacks, starting quarterbacks in the NFL, are being filled up. So I'm with you. By the way, so again, that's no doubt he'll be traded before next month's April draft. No way, no doubt that the Vikings, even though Kirk Cousins has exited stage left, they will not let the same thing happen. No way, no doubt the Vikings sign Justin Jefferson to an extension this offseason.
I think there's no doubt they do it. I think they're more than willing to. They're more than happy to. I think they know that they're going to have to pay him more than Tyreek Hill. I think this is a debate between, do we pay him 31, do we pay him 30.5, or does he get up to 34? I think that's the conversation. I think they're in the ballpark. They're not in different planets, and I think because of that, they'll be able to get it done.
This is a very interesting one to me because no way or no doubt that next year's NFL MVP currently is sitting at 15-1 or higher at DraftKings. No way or no doubt. I mean, look at that number, Michael. 15-1 feels pretty juicy to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I think with Henry behind him, it really helps him because it ends up giving him he'll be under center more because Henry's not a offset back shotgun runner. He can do it, but that's not his thing. His thing is deep eye, outside inside zone with power. which really sets up well for Lamar because I think Lamar needs to be under center more. So, but it's so hard to win it 2 years in a row unless they just have a great year. And my sense of it is that I don't think that they can have the same year they had last year. Losing McDonald's hard. They hired Zach Orr to be the defensive coordinator. He's only been coaching for 3 years. Like, I know McDonald was a young coach too, but McDonald had a lot more experience. I know Zach Orr played in the league, but I think playing chess on Sunday with only 3 years of experience is rather difficult.
This is another interesting one because you're going to get multiple teams here in this no way or no doubt. That next year's champion in the Super Bowl, I can only give you 10-1 or shorter at DK. So those 10-1 or shorter, this would be your field, Michael. Bills, 10-1. Ravens, 9-1. Chiefs to go three-peat, never been done before in the history of the NFL. 6-1. Or the Niners are plus 550. No way or no doubt that's your options on your menu list, 10-1 or shorter, that they are the Super Bowl champion, one of those four teams.
I would say no way. There's always some surprise, and I think that it's too hard to just narrow it down. I think the Niners have to prove that they can fix some of the areas. I think they're certainly in contention. Kansas City is. I think you can eliminate some teams immediately, David, but I think to me the Lions, you have to consider them. The Bengals, you have to consider them. I think the Eagles, you have to consider them. I think the Packers, you have to consider them. I think I would have to put those teams in there.
So we're going to go no chance there. Play the longer numbers there than the four short faves here at 10-1. I'm with you in the Bill. Like the Bills, to me, that number is not big enough for me right now. They got a lot of holes to fill here, as we've seen certainly in free agency. And the Cowboys I saw was 17-1. I mean, it feels about right. Probably should be a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think that's about right. I didn't put the Cowboys in my group, but I don't know how you ignore the Detroit Lions. I mean, they got two starting corners now. Amik Robinson, they get Carlton Davis. That's what they needed to improve, and they still have a draft ahead of them.
Still can't believe they didn't win that game against the Niners, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, when we come back, Michael, it's going to be a lot of fun for the remaining 30 minutes of this program. Mike Palm's going to join us in studio. And also at the end of the show, Palms Pressing 3. Come on back. It's the Lombardi Line.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here is your host, Stormy Bonatoni, on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Not a registered VSiN.com user just yet. We'll create a free account today. Get VSiN Pro access to everything we do through NCAA Championship Week leading up to Selection Sunday. Sign up today at VSiN.com/Champ Week. Get instant VSiN Pro access, which includes our daily best bets with a leaderboard showing you which VSiN expert has a current on hand. Betting splits showing you where the money and the bets are moving for every single game. Premium systems, premium analysis, 24/7 video access, plus our upcoming NCAA tournament betting primer. Do not miss out on this VSiN Pro free preview to help you bet the tournament a little bit smarter. Create a free account now at VSiN.com/Champ Week. Get full VSiN Pro access from now through March 17th. That's VSIN.com/Champ Week. A pleasure, Michael Lombardi, to welcome another Mike in studio, Mike Palm in studio now. And it's a lot of fun talking during the break. And Michael Lombardi had a simple question of which week is better for the fan experience, championship week or the beginning of NCAA tournament week? Mike Palm, you say it's a no-brainer.
Well, it depends on how you ask the question, how much of a no-brainer it is. And good morning, Dave. It's nice to see you. Michael, always good to be on with you. If you do it from maybe from an experiential entertainment standpoint, the opening of the tournament is pretty hard to top because of the large number of people, the excitement in the ballrooms, the Cinderella, right? You get, the 15-2 upset and all this. And what's crazy is over the past few years, everybody's sweating these first to 10 and first to 15 bets. Like, right? You never had that years. All of a sudden, people are going nuts the first 4 minutes of a game. But from a betting perspective, I think it's no doubt that this is the better weekend. And I contend today is the best betting day of the year.
Whoa.
With the quarterfinals of all these tournaments. Single betting day. Now, I'd say the first round of the NHL playoffs, but not all the games start on the same day. That first wild card where you have the 4 wild card series, they're all played on the same day, game 1, game 2. pretty good. But here you have the quarterfinals of all the major tournaments, and so Paulie Howard says it's tomorrow because of the semifinals, but there's double the games today. So this is great. I mean, the book was full from this morning. The tips 8 a.m. here Pacific time. And from a standpoint of budgeting, your budget, I mean, the prices are much more expensive. Rooms are more than double the price next weekend. The cost of a space to rent for a food and beverage minimum much higher next weekend. So I think it gradually keeps the sharp people keep trending to coming conference tournament week as opposed to the opening weekend of March Madness, Michael.
It's so good. I mean, like, this is truly the best time of the year for if you're a college basketball. You don't even have to be a basketball fan. It's so good to watch all these games in succession and just sit there. I can remember coming to it when my son was a senior at Fordham. They all took they went out to Vegas for that weekend, and we watched the opening round. The moment between those games as everybody is on either side waiting for the determination of who wins and who loses, to me was incredible. The energy in there, and having been to Super Bowls before, it was, because there's money involved, it was really, really remarkable.
Michael, for you as a former front office person successful in the NFL, is this the best time of the year for you, the opening of free agency? It seemed really wild and woolly to kick off. Is this as exciting as heading up and into the draft?
I think really after all the money spent, I think finding the bargains is really what makes you the best GM, right? It's like everybody can see Christian Wilkins will help your team. Everybody can see Kirk Cousins will help your team. But it's these little signings that you have to do that really make you a better team, right? They don't move the needle on the sports book. They don't move the needle anywhere, but they do move the needle in the sense of making you a better team. Like, let me give an example. Gabe Davis makes $13 million a year. He goes to Jacksonville. A good player. They signed Mac Hollins from Atlanta. Now, Mac Hollins, you remember him, Mike. He played for the Raiders, and he played well for the Raiders as an outside receiver. They signed him more as a special teams player, but when they lost him last year with that offense, when they had Adams and then they had Jacoby Myers, they didn't have that outside threat. It certainly wasn't Hunter Renfrow. And so, he can stretch a defense vertically, which is what Gabe Davis can do. And he can catch and track the long ball, which is what Gabe Davis can do. Now, is he a better player? No, but for 1/3 of the cost he is. So those are the kind of things that get your juices going as an executive. Where can I find the piece to fit in here to get me to where I don't have to pay? I think what Baltimore's done, you look at Baltimore's list, you say, man, they're taking a beating. Well, they have backups now. They got to be right on those backups, right? You got to be right on those backups. And you got to have a staff that's integrated into developing those backups. And this is where the conflict occurs between, most sports when you're not everybody on the same page. If the coaches feel like they lost a player that they can't replace, they won't spend time developing the next guy. And that has to be the head coach demanding they do it. And some places won't do that.
No, I'm so intrigued, too, because Michael and I were talking about this earlier in the show. Michael says, hey, don't run to the window here before you bet those Atlanta Falcons futures. But Mike Palm, I do see the numbers have changed, and the Falcons have gone up to be now minus $1.25 to win the South. And obviously, Kirk Cousins is the reason why people are starting to bet the Falcons here. Are you guys seeing a lot of that movement now in free agency?
Yeah, we're seeing. There's been no big bet to win six figures yet, right? That would really change our liability. There's been smaller bets, low five-figure bets. It's interesting what they did there. I mean, you're making a bet on Cousins, and I'll get into that in Pressing 3. That's going to be my first question. But it does allow them, obviously, to use the pick on a defensive player.
Sure.
Right? They've put all these pieces around and haven't had a quarterback. And you got all these top 10 draft choices on offense that Arthur Smith wasn't really able to develop there, whether that was a function of him or a function of who he had behind center.
Mike, let me ask you this question. All right, so if you really feel like, if you take the Houston model where C.J. Stroud took the team from, that wasn't a bad team, right? I think there's a misconception in the NFL that bad teams are bad and good teams are good. It's not college football. There's 6 or 7 plays, maybe 5 plays a game that determine winning and losing, and the bad teams don't make any of them, and the good teams make all of them. So there's that slight margin, that thin line, right? And so, like, let's just say with the Chicago Bears, if you felt they were a good team minus a quarterback, or somebody could come in and really help their offense, wouldn't you want to play them as a playoff contender? But I'm not sold that they're as good overall as even the Texans were last year.
You're talking about the Bears now, Michael.
Yeah.
Well, here's the problem. I think that
because if Caleb does what Stroud does, my point is why is there nobody betting the Bears like Stroud? Because we have evidence that one quarterback can make a bad team a good team.
I think it has to do with the division, because you're looking at this division, and Detroit had a 17-point lead on the road in the second half of a conference champ. They had, Michael, you talk about control of a game. They had control of that game. I thought, I'll swear, that when they forced the 49ers to kick a field goal on the opening drive, they're a winner. And now the fumble was huge, right? The Gibbs. But so you go to Detroit. This Packers team is young and on the rise, and actually outplayed San Francisco the week before.
They should have won too.
The division is very tough. Now you're going to say Minnesota loses cousin. Where are they going to go? Maybe they're the weak link. But they're looking up at two teams in that division, where when you looked at the AFC South in Houston last year, was there any juggernaut that you said, oh no, if this team makes a leap forward, they're not going, they still won't be able to compete? I don't think so. So I think the division also has to do it, because when you're looking to bet a team to go to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl, you're always looking at, can they win their division and get a home game, right? Nobody's thinking, I got this team because I think they're going to win 3 road games in the playoffs.
Totally agree.
That's true.
On those lines with the Lions, and I am still perplexed by this. When I look at the futures market here at Circus Sportsbook, the Lions are 6-1 to win the NFC next year. The Cowboys are plus 520. Yeah. Why are the Cowboys shorter than the Lions?
Well, Dave, you know this. They're like Notre Dame. They're a national brand. Well, they are, though. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There's always so many people that love this Cowboys team. People always mock it because they haven't had a playoff success in so long. But they still are. It doesn't matter. Anywhere I go, in any of the venues, there's always, like, you say some bars tend to be these fans, and it's in our different properties. But there's always Cowboys fans here. Always.
We're everywhere. Yeah.
It's a dream. It's like, when they said, asked David Stern, what's your dream NBA Finals? He said Lakers versus Lakers. I mean, it's the Cowboys versus, right? I mean, that's, if you could have Cowboys on Sunday Night Football all 17 weeks, they do it, right? I think that has a big factor in the betting market.
Would they have the comma? Would the comma come with them? The Skip Bayless comma?
I don't think we can say what that comma is. You have to have
the Dallas comma Cowboys. I mean, so good. I mean, these people misinterpret the all in. It's unbelievable. And again, it just continues to spread. And Jerry didn't say it. He said he was going to re-sign his own. Basically, he's all in on Parsons and those guys. He didn't say he was going to be all in on Dorrance Armstrong.
No, he did not. I'm glad that Michael Lombardi, you're being the voice of reason out there for people freaking out about what the Cowboys are doing or not doing.
Well, and if anybody who understands the importance of the long snapper, it's Michael Lombardi.
Well, that's right. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike.
Pressing 3 next here on the Lombardi Line.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here is your host, Stormy Buonantony, on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This week on DraftKings Sportsbook, new customers can bet just $5, pocket $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the app. Use promo code VSiN when you sign up today. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown can be all yours.
Pressing? Yes, I say it's pressing.
This is Palms Pressing 3.
My mother told me never to answer a question with a question.
Sir, my client has answered every question asked by this committee with the utmost sincerity.
Palms Pressing 3. I heard Gandolfini in there from Sopranos.
Oh, yeah.
That's fantastic. Michael Lombardi, Mike Palm, Dave Ross here with you on this edition of Lombardi Line. So let's get right to it. What is the number one of Palms Pressing 3?
Question 1, Michael. Last year, when Lamar Jackson was available on the free agent market, Lamar Jackson, former MVP and now 2-time MVP, Falcons owner Arthur Blank stood up and waved his hand and said, hey, just so everybody knows, we're not interested. This year, that same Arthur Blank rushes to the window to pay $180 million, $100 of which is guaranteed, to 35-year-old Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, fresh off an Achilles injury. Kirk Cousins, who has more career ties than playoff wins. Michael, make it make sense.
I can't, Mike. I can't make it make sense because, well, I can say this. It's the classic problem of the NFL. They're going to blame Arthur Smith for everything. Arthur Smith is getting blamed for everything. The fact that Drake London can't get open, the fact that Kyle Pitts can't make a play, the fact that they couldn't stop. It's all Arthur Smith. This has been an opera. Do you know why the Falcons never win? It's because it's always somebody else's problem, and they just keep moving things around. Like Walsh would say in 1976. They say, well, Rich McKay's not involved anymore. He's at the Combine. He's at the What do you, if you're not involved, what are you doing at the Combine? So, look, this is all about we got to save our butt. We said we felt like Raheem Morris is a better head coach than Bill Belichick. Well, you really didn't. You couldn't believe that. Even Raheem Morris knows that's not true, but they didn't want to change their structure. So, they had to go they went all in, and Blank at his age is willing to listen. It's just like he's been led down the wrong road for so long that he can't see the other side. Now, look, they think they're one player away. I've been in this league long enough to know no team is one player away, including the Kansas City Chiefs this year as you start over. You're not one player away. It takes everybody. And so we're going to find out how good they really are on defense. I know Raheem's a really good defensive coordinator. We're going to find out how good they are with a quarterback who can't move, who's coming off an Achilles. And we're going to find out how really good they are in terms of team speed. When you watch them on tape, and I know they got Drake London, they got this guy. Like, I tweeted this out the other. Pickens at Pittsburgh is better than Drake London. They're not even close. London didn't make any plays down the field. He's a possession receiver. Pitts is not a tight end. He's an F. Good player, but he wasn't healthy last year. So, like, how's it all going to come together? And then Cousins, like, we have such short memories. Cousins lost to the New York Football Giants at home in a playoff game.
Michael, very quickly to Mike's first of the pressing three, is this an overcorrect because of Mike's question, right? That because we said, we're not interested in the, one-time now, two-time MVP, this is not an autocorrect? Or overcorrect?
This is, we got to prove, we're smarter than everybody. We didn't hire Belichick. We got to prove why we didn't hire him. This is what it is.
Wow. All right,
let me ask the question the other way. Would they have signed Kirk Cousins if Belichick were the head coach?
That's a very interesting question. I'm assuming the question would be no, or the answer would have been no.
No, of course. They wouldn't commit that much money. That would be pay more than Brady? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, no shot of that. Okay, this is a lot of fun. What's your second pressing question?
Let's go to Cleveland. And this is a theory that I had from last year. But was the biggest impediment, Michael, to the Browns re-signing the comeback player of the year, Joe Flacco, the fact that during the season last year, they anointed DTR as their quarterback in waiting? I mean, I didn't understand. P.J. Walker won 2 out of 3 games. The game he lost was a tip ball, and Seattle intercepts it, and they kept putting DTR in, who was lost in the sauce as a rookie. But if you re-sign Joe Flacco, then that makes DTR third. Is my theory correct here, Michael?
Your theory is correct, and I don't think they wanted to put any money in the backup quarterback position. I think they feel like, okay, but then they turn around and sign Jameis Winston. Well. So, like, how does that explain it? I thought initially you're right, but then they turn around and sign Jameis Winston and guarantee him money. Like, what are we doing here? What do we do? I mean, you're telling me Winston could have won those games that Flacco won for you last year? I think what this is I think that Deshaun felt nervous around Flacco. I think they wanted Winston to come in and accept that he's a backup. Accept that he's a backup. You're the backup. Whereas Flacco's sitting there probably saying, hell, I play better than this guy. And Flacco's not trying to be a disruptive force. But I think a lot of this is to soothe Deshaun Watson, not DTR. I think this is about Watson. And I think they want somebody to mentor Watson. And Winston's a great kid, and Winston works hard. He just turns the ball over too much. But this is a commitment that they have to continue to make to Watson.
Michael, this is something we talked about a lot on the show today, and certainly why Brad Holmes, and we're seeing that now with Dan Campbell, that symbiotic relationship in Detroit. Does Stefanski sign off on this too, or is he not part of which guy we let go and which guy we re-sign?
Oh, I think he gets involved, but I'm sure Paul DePodesta, Jimmy Haslam's family, I think they're all involved. And I think the cap's involved. And I think they're trying to sit there. Like, you can't really say, like, I could understand what Mike Palm's saying. Like, we committed to DTR last year, right? We got a really good young quarterback. He's an economic value at backup quarterback. But then they turn around and sign Winston and put money in. When you could have taken Winston's money and signed a defensive lineman.
Very interesting. And I'm
going to give you a real quick one. This is a rapid fire, Michael. Not a lot of time for answer. What would you put the over-under at how many games Joe Flacco starts for the Colts next year?
5.
Ooh. Whoa!
Whoa, that's a little higher than what I thought.
I would have set the line at
3.5.
That's what I was
said
thinking.
3. All right, let's get to question 3, Michael, because this hits close to home for you. Was the Eagles' signing of Saquon Barkley just what the doctor ordered for the people of Philadelphia to get over Jay Wright's retirement?
Well, I think it helped. And certainly, the Penn State flag, we are, shines brightly back here. But I think this is, I'm not trying to be Sherlock Holmes here, but you have to have deductive reasoning behind the signing, especially when it goes against the character of the team doing the signing. And the Eagles don't want to pay running backs. That's documented. But I think the Eagles have made the decision that they have to do everything to protect the contract that they gave Jalen Hurts, and they got to do everything to protect the offense that Hurts operates best in. And having a blue-chip runner behind a very good offensive line does that. So are you going to pay $11 million for a slot receiver, or you rather pay $13 million for Barkley? I think they adjusted their thinking and decided, yeah, we're better off playing the 13 to Barkley. He's going to carry it 200 times. I mean, think about this, Mike. Hunter Renfrow made $16 million last year as a slot receiver. $16 million as a slot receiver. Jacobs was fighting to get to $13 million, and he's going to carry the ball 250 times.
By the way, Cowboys and Eagles both at plus +30 to win the East next year. Kellen Moore coming in as the OC didn't exactly work out in La La Land last year. Is Sirianni and the coaching staff better? And now with Saquon in the fold, like, how does that look with Kellen Moore?
My problem with Kellen Moore is he's an independent contractor. He doesn't anything to help the defense. Now, he's got Vic Fangio over there. Now, we know this about Vic. If you don't try to play complimentary football, Vic's going to be able to punch you in the nose. So something's going to change. That's what happened in Miami. Miami was sitting there, and, they're trying to do all the things that McDaniel wants to do to be called a genius. And, Vic was too hard on the players. Too hard on the players? Like, you got to show up and come to work. Like, this is a job. It's not too hard on the players. Vic's one of the best defensive coordinators. So Sirianni's job is to play this game in unison. And what they did 2 years ago is they dominated the first half and they dominated the second quarter, and they need to get back to that.
Very quickly, out of those two teams, Dallas and Philly at plus $1.30. If you had to wager one today, which number is the better value for you? Philly.
Yeah.
Michael says Kellen Moore is Kevin Gilbride 2.0.
All he wants to do is throw the ball. He's trying to he put up. Look, it just proves my theory. You don't have to win for him to get a job. He just has to get yards, right? The only person in Philadelphia that's paid to win are Howie and the head coach. That's it. Everybody else will get jobs. You'll get fired if you don't win. So if somebody doesn't control the variables of the people that aren't paid to win, then you got a problem.
Did Buddy punch Gilbride or Gilbride punch Buddy?
No,
Buddy punched Gilbride.
I want to go on the record now with you, Dave Ross. I think the Cincinnati Bengals might be the best team in football this coming year.
There goes Mike.
I think they are. I think the two signed Geno Stone and bringing Von Bell back, and then they just signed Sheldon Rankins. I agree. I think that 13-1 is a great number on them.
Then you guys don't like my Steelers to win the division at 11-1 bet.
They can't. He's 9-8.
Russell.
They pencil in 9-8 every year.
Michael Lombardi, Michael Palm. A lot of fun, gentlemen. Tomorrow we're back here on the Lombardi Line.
Thank you.